Hello everyone and welcome to Creature Archives. Today we're continuing the series Evolved Fiction. In this series I take iconic creatures from movies, myths, and games and reimagine them through the lens of real-world evolution and biology, seeing just how close real life could get to turning fantasy into reality. In today's episode, we're tackling another absolute legend of cinema and pop culture, King Kong. This giant ape has been reimagined countless times, as a misunderstood monster, a tragic hero, and as the king of Skull Island. But what if Kong wasn't just fantasy? How big could an ape truly get? Could it walk upright and wield weapons? And when and where could a creature like this evolve? Today I will be answering all of these questions and more, speculating on just how close real-world biology and physics could get to King Kong. And be sure to stick around until the end, where I'll dive into an alternate history where this colossal ape roams the earth and stage a rare encounter between it and the largest terrestrial predator to ever live. Speaking of which, if you haven't already watched my realistic Godzilla episode, go check that out first. You'll need it for the full context of what happens when these two giants collide. So without further ado, let's discover how evolution could bring a giant ape to life in this episode of Creature Archives. Before we start building this creature, we need to set out the main goals for what it would actually take to bring King Kong into reality. First, size. Kong is defined by his sheer scale, so the top priority is making this the largest ape possible, while still keeping it a fully terrestrial animal that can realistically survive under the laws of biology and physics. Second, posture. While some depictions of Kong show him moving on all fours, many incarnations portray him as bipedal. Our goal is to design an ape that, while not strictly upright at all times, can at least adopt a stable bipedal stance when needed, whether that be for intimidation, combat, or tool use. Third, diet. Many incarnations of Kong show him eating both plants and animals, so this creature will be an omnivore, capable of foraging on vegetation, but also scavenging and even hunting when the opportunity arises. And fourth, intelligence. Kong isn't just a brute. He's consistently portrayed as smart enough to problem solve, learn, and even craft and use weapons. So this species needs to be not only intelligent, but well versed in creating and wielding tools and weaponry. So where and when could such a creature evolve? To reach Kong's legendary size, the best starting point is the largest ape we know of, Gigantopithecus. This prehistoric giant lived in Southeast Asia during the Pleistocene, from roughly 2 million to 300,000 years ago. Fossil evidence is fragmentary, mostly jaws and teeth, but estimates suggest it stood up to 3 meters tall when upright and could weigh over 600 pounds. That already makes it far larger than any living ape, setting it apart as an ideal evolutionary baseline. Starting from a Gigantopithecus-like ancestor, natural selection could over hundreds of thousands to a few million years push descendants towards even greater size. Limbs would thicken into heavy weight-bearing columns, much like the forelimbs of giant ground sloths. Joints would broaden and reinforce, with dense bone walls and wide surfaces in the hips, knees, and shoulders to absorb the stresses of carrying tons of mass. Even the torso would need to expand into a deep barrel-shaped cavity, making room for massive lungs, a powerful heart, and a vast digestive system to process the incredible amounts of food needed to keep such a creature alive. With these adaptations in place, the end result is a fully terrestrial ape standing about 4.5 meters tall and weighing in at roughly 3 tons. Now, those of you who watched the Godzilla Evolved Fiction video may be pointing out that this is quite a bit smaller than our realistic Godzilla, and you'd be absolutely right. This is because there are some hard biological limits that prevent a primate, or really any terrestrial mammal, from reaching the same extreme sizes that a semi-aquatic reptile like Thermoradiosaurus can achieve. Thermoradiosaurus could afford to be absolutely massive because its reptilian body plan and primarily aquatic lifestyle all ease the stresses of gravity. An ape, by contrast, has to remain fully terrestrial, upright at least part of the time, and supported entirely by its skeleton and muscles on land. That's a far tougher engineering challenge. Now, you still might be wondering, but what about mammals like elephants? They live on land and reach sizes much bigger than this. The answer comes down to body plan. Elephants are graviportal. Their legs are thick, straight, and positioned directly beneath the torso, allowing their mass to be supported vertically with minimal strain. Apes, on the other hand, even giant ones, retain more flexed joints, broad chest, and grappling adaptations inherited from their climbing ancestry. Scaling that design up amplifies the stresses placed on bones and muscles far more than it would in an elephant. Our 3-ton King Kong would likely be the upper ceiling of what a terrestrial primate body plan could realistically sustain. Now that we've established our Kong's size, the next question is how such a giant would actually move. At over 3 tons, this ape couldn't rely on an upright stance alone. In day-to-day life, Kong would need to walk primarily on all fours, knuckle walking much like modern gorillas. That said, Kong would still need to stand and move bipedally at times. Displays of dominance, carrying or wielding tools, and especially using weapons all demand a temporary upright stance. Fossil apes like Gigantopithecus and Danuvius show us that even very large primates retain some ability to move upright. But the heavier the animal, the harder it is to stand bipedally. To make this possible, his pelvis, spine, and hips would be massively reinforced, giving him the ability to lock his knees and support his torso without collapsing under the strain. Thick vertebral ligaments and enormous gluteal muscles would provide the stability and power to rise upright, even if only for short periods. The arms would remain long and powerful, crucial both for quadrupedal locomotion and for lifting, swinging, or throwing heavy objects. His hands, while retaining opposable thumbs, would likely be stouter and stronger than those of smaller apes, built to withstand the stress of supporting weight while still allowing for precise grip and tool use. His feet, broad and plantigrade, would resemble oversized versions of a gorilla's, short, robust toes ending in thick nails. This design maximizes ground contact, spreading his immense weight and reducing injury risk. In short, this Kong would move as a mostly quadrupedal giant, but with the reinforced anatomy to stand tall when needed. Before we dive deeper into the biology and behavior of King Kong, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that's been an incredible help for creators like me, World Anvil, the sponsor of this video. World Anvil is a world-building platform that helps you organize all your ideas, lore, and creative projects in one place. Its structured article system offers over 25 detailed templates for everything from locations and timelines to organizations and cultures, all with helpful prompts to guide you without limiting creativity. If you love creating detailed worlds, it makes it easy to keep track of characters, species, societies, and even fantastical technologies. You can link articles together, create interactive maps, build custom timelines, and track relationships between people, places, and creatures. Basically, it's designed to turn sprawling ideas into a fully realized interconnected universe. One of my favorite features is that World Anvil also works seamlessly with over 100 tabletop RPG systems, like Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons. With built-in stat block templates, you can create characters, monsters, or even entire civilizations ready for gaming or storytelling. Whether you're an author, a game master, or just a world-building enthusiast, World Anvil gives you the tools to explore and organize your imagination at a professional level. If you want to start building your own epic worlds, you can use my code CreatureArchives for 51% off any yearly subscription. Just head to worldanvil.com, click the link in the description, and start creating your own stories today. The next challenge is perhaps the greatest of all: how to fuel such an enormous body. A 3-ton ape would require an extraordinary intake of calories, likely in the range of 30 to 50,000 per day. To meet this demand, Kong would need a broad, flexible diet combining both plants and animals. Its jaws and teeth would reflect this versatility. Like its ancestor Gigantopithecus, it would retain massive molars and powerful jaw muscles, well suited for grinding down fibrous vegetation such as bamboo, roots, and tubers. But unlike Gigantopithecus, which was almost certainly herbivorous, Kong would need to become a true omnivore. This would mean developing thicker, more conical canines for piercing flesh, reinforced jaw joints to resist torsional stresses from tearing meat or cracking shells, and a slightly elongated muzzle to improve bite leverage. These features together would allow it to crush through nuts, dig up starchy roots, shear meat from bones, and even open hard-shelled crustaceans. The backbone of Kong's diet would remain plant-based, centered on high-calorie foods like fruits, roots, and shoots. A deep barrel-shaped torso would house an expanded digestive system functioning somewhat like a hindgut fermenter, extracting maximum energy from fibrous plants. But plant matter alone would not be enough. To fuel his bulk, Kong would need to exploit high-protein and fat-rich foods that pack far more energy per bite. Here is where coastal ecosystems would be invaluable. Just as early humans gained a significant survival advantage from exploiting marine resources, Kong could rely on shellfish, crabs, seabird eggs, beach-cast fish, and even scavenging stranded marine mammals. These foods are dense, predictable, and available year-round, an ideal supplement to sustain such a massive size without excessive daily foraging. Kong would also be an opportunistic predator. Using his intelligence and tool-making ability, he could hunt medium-sized mammals, reptiles, and fish. A sharpened branch, heavy stone, or bone spear would allow him to take prey that his brute strength alone could not easily subdue. This capacity for tool-assisted hunting would set him apart from other megafauna. By combining energy-rich plants, nutrient-dense coastal foraging, and opportunistic hunting, Kong's omnivorous diet could realistically supply the tens of thousands of calories needed to sustain a 3-ton frame. With such a diverse and demanding diet, Kong wouldn't just need brute strength. He'd need smarts, dexterity, and innovation, navigating dense forest, rocky beaches, and coastal waters to access fruits, roots, shellfish, and prey would place strong selective pressures on problem-solving abilities. Individuals capable of remembering locations of abundant food, coordinating with others, and improvising solutions would have a clear survival advantage. This cognitive demand naturally supports a complex social structure. Kong would likely live in small cooperative groups, sharing knowledge about food sources, tool-making techniques, and predator avoidance strategies. Social learning would be essential, juveniles observing adults to learn how to craft implements, coordinate hunts, or manage coastal foraging. Such group dynamics also create opportunities for cultural transmission, where techniques and innovations can persist across generations, a hallmark of a highly intelligent species like chimpanzees and humans. Kong's intelligence and dexterity wouldn't just stop at foraging, they would extend into a sophisticated toolkit. Heavy blunt implements like uprooted tree trunks, carved logs, or dense branches could serve as clubs for smashing open large shells, cracking bones, or fending off predators. Over time, these crude tools might evolve into more refined versions, with sinew, vines, or other fibers used to lash bones or sturdy sticks to handles, creating reinforced hafted clubs with far greater striking power. For hunting, Kong could fashion sharpened spears and stabbing implements from sticks or bones, hardening their tips with fire or stone flaking. These would be effective for spearfishing in shallow waters, bringing down seabirds, or even tackling small to medium-sized mammals. His strength would also make him a formidable user of thrown weapons, whether it be boulders, logs, or sharpened stakes, hurled with devastating force during confrontations. In some coastal regions, washed-up remains of Thermoradiosaurus colossus consisting of large mineral-rich spines or bones would provide particularly valuable implements. These spines are naturally reinforced with trace minerals like strontium or iron, making them ideal for spear tips or axes and showcasing Kong's ability to assess density, durability, and leverage. All of these abilities combine cognitive skill, social cooperation, and mechanical ingenuity, making Kong not just a powerhouse of muscle, but a highly adaptive and innovative predator capable of shaping its environment as much as it is shaped by it. And there you have it, our realistic King Kong. Meet Colossopithecus rex, a towering 4.5 meter tall, 3-ton omnivorous ape, built not only for raw strength, but for intelligence, innovation, and survival in a complex world. From its massive reinforced frame to its tool-using problem-solving mind, this is the ape that could plausibly bring the legend of King Kong to life. Unlike some of its relatives, such as Gigantopithecus, Colossopithecus has survived until today. It inhabits tropical and subtropical regions of Southeast Asia, particularly large islands like Borneo, Sumatra, and parts of the Malay archipelago, as well as extensive continental shelf areas along coastal Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia. These areas combine dense lowland forest with rich coastlines, providing both shelter and abundant food. Colossopithecus rex primarily moves quadrupedally, using its massive reinforced limbs to travel steadily through forest and along rocky shorelines. It can stand and move bipedally when displaying, carrying large objects, or wielding tools and weapons. Socially, it lives in small cooperative groups, coordinating foraging and passing knowledge of food sources, tool use, and predator awareness from one generation to the next. Its ecological role is significant. As an opportunistic omnivore, it controls populations of smaller animals, aids in seed dispersal through its plant diet, and influences coastal ecosystems through foraging along beaches and shellfish-rich areas. Colossopithecus rex is a keystone species fully integrated into the tropical forest and coastal ecosystems of Southeast Asia. Early modern humans, or Homo sapiens, migrating through Southeast Asia around 50 to 40,000 years ago would have occasionally stumbled upon these massive apes along coastal regions or forested river valleys. To a small hunting party, a 3-ton, 4.5 meter ape would have been a terrifying sight. Early interactions would likely have been brief and cautious. Humans would have quickly learned to avoid confrontation, relying instead on scavenging the ape's abandoned kills or gathering fruit from areas it had visited. Stone tools from this era might bear subtle evidence of these encounters, broken trees used as weapons, or butchery marks on marine carcasses left behind by Colossopithecus. While direct predation on humans was probably rare, given the ape's intelligence and likely avoidance of human groups, conflicts could have occurred when humans ventured too close to the apes' feeding grounds, leading to the development of early myths and cautionary tales about giants living in the forest. By the Neolithic period, around 10,000 to 2,000 years ago, human populations had begun establishing coastal settlements and small villages. Encounters with Colossopithecus would have become more frequent. Highly intelligent and capable of using tools, the apes occasionally raided crops or scavenged near settlements. Humans responded with strategies for coexistence, including deterrent fences, controlled burns, or even leading hunting parties with careful planning. These interactions likely shaped early folklore, with stories warning of giant clever beings that could outthink or overpower unprepared humans. By the medieval era, humans had spread across the region more extensively, and the apes would have been pushed into remote forested mountains and protected coastal areas. Some local tribes may have hunted them occasionally, but only sporadically, given the danger of such large and intelligent creatures. When European explorers arrived in Southeast Asia between the 16th and 19th centuries, they encountered a land rich with unfamiliar flora and fauna, and rumors of enormous apes that dwarfed any primate they had ever seen. Reports of gigantic intelligent creatures moving through the forest and along coastal cliffs were often dismissed as exaggerations, the stuff of sailor tales and local superstition. Early naturalists sometimes logged these accounts under cryptids, much like the Western world initially regarded gorillas in Africa, which were only scientifically confirmed in the 19th century. Local guides and indigenous communities, however, attested to the apes' existence, with detailed knowledge of their habits, territories, and even tool use. They described Colossopithecus rex as highly intelligent and capable of coordinated foraging, able to wield rudimentary tools and fiercely protective of their young and resources. These reports often conflicted with European expectations, reinforcing the apes' reputation as elusive giants inhabiting the remote corners of the islands and coast. Hunting pressures combined with habitat encroachment from early plantations and settlements began to push populations into more secluded regions. Rugged cliffs, dense mangrove swamps, and interior forests inaccessible to most humans. These retreats preserve small, isolated populations, making sightings rare and reinforcing the sense of mystery surrounding the species. By the 20th century, small populations of Colossopithecus were still surviving, but only in isolated pockets along coastal forest and mountainous regions of Borneo, Sumatra, and the Malay Peninsula. Modern scientists first formally documented the species in the early 1900s, though anecdotal sightings and local knowledge had persisted for centuries. Recognizing their rarity and ecological importance, governments and conservationists established nature preserves in protected areas. Today, Colossopithecus is one of the rarest and most studied primates in the world. Some of the most remarkable studies in recent decades have involved researchers living alongside small groups of these apes, gaining unprecedented insight into their social structure, communication, and tool use. In a few documented cases, researchers have even taught aspects of sign language, allowing the apes to communicate simple concepts, request food, or indicate intent, much like with chimpanzees and gorillas in real-world primatology. These interactions have revealed a species that is not only physically formidable, but highly intelligent, socially complex, and capable of cultural learning. Observers report seeing them share tools, plan coordinated foraging, and even create rudimentary traps, demonstrating that their cognition rivals or even may exceed that of the other great apes. In the early 2000s, a documentary crew set out to capture rarely seen wildlife along a remote tropical coastline in Sumatra. Cameras rolling, they stumbled upon something far beyond ordinary observation. A small troop of Colossopithecus foraging along the shoreline. But unbeknownst to the crew or the apes, their search for shellfish and coastal resources had brought them dangerously close to a nesting site. Just offshore, the massive silhouette of a female Thermoradiosaurus colossus shifted in the surf. Sensing a disturbance, the mother surged forward, rising from the shallows with a thunderous spray of water. Her roar echoed across the cove, a visceral warning to leave the area at once. The Colossopithecus troop froze, adults immediately rallying around the young. The towering alpha male steps forward, brandishing a heavy spear tipped with the mineralized spine nearly identical to the ones on the Thermoradiosaurus's back. He pounded his chest, letting out a guttural roar that echoed across the shoreline, an unmistakable signal of defiance against the reptilian titan. The Thermoradiosaurus responded in kind. With a heave of her lungs, she expelled a blast of superheated, chemically charged seawater, vaporizing the surf and scorching the sand where the apes had been moments before. The alpha countered by hurling his spear with terrifying force, striking true and piercing into the side of the beast. She thrashed and bellowed in fury, the waves churning as her massive tail slammed against the rocks. For a moment, it seemed as if one of the most extraordinary battles of the natural world was about to unfold. Primordial reptile against colossal primate. But then, an unexpected interruption silenced the shoreline. The air trembled with the sound of crackling electricity. A deep shadow fell across the scene as enormous wings blotted out the sun. Both ape and reptile turned skyward as a piercing cry rang out, and the crew kept their cameras trained as the impossible unfolded. Thanks for watching this episode of Evolve Fiction. The art for this video was created by Delta Reaper 54, so if you want to see more like it, be sure to go check out their work. Their info will be in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any future content. And let me know down below what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future. And a special shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you all in the next video.